Now let's move on to multiplication and division. What I want you to know about multiplication is that there are multiple ways to write multiplication. Back when you first learned to multiply, it was often written like this, 3 times 4. Here's the problem. This little symbol right here is not one that we use much once we get past algebra. The issue is it looks like an x, and x is often a variable that we use in algebraic equations, and so we can't write multiplication like that anymore. And so instead, we write multiplication like this. We use parentheses. I could write 3 times 4. I could put 3 times 4 next to each other like this. I can also use a dot in between them. Another thing you can do if you're using a number and a letter, or a number and a variable, is they can be right next to each other with nothing in between them. All of these are ways to show multiplication, and they are all better than that one. So you will hardly ever see this from me. It may come up occasionally, but please be familiar with the other ways of writing multiplication. Division has the same issue. Back when we first learned division, we wrote it like this, 3 divided by 4. This I still use occasionally, but you're going to see things like this, 3 divided by 4. You're going to say, hey, that looks like a fraction, but the truth is fractions are just a division problem, and so this really does mean 3 divided by 4, and I also can write it like this, 3 divided by 4. All of these are ways to show division. Both of these are ways you'll see much more common than this one. This one you won't see too often. Still come up occasionally. Let me review with you rules for multiplication and division. These rules apply for both. I'm going to put them for multiplication, but they'll also work for division. If you multiply a positive number times a positive number, you will get a positive as an answer. For example, if I multiply 3 times 4, I will get a positive 3 times a positive 4. I will get a positive answer. Same rule. If I divide a positive number by a positive number, okay, I will also get a positive answer. If I multiply a negative times a negative, I'll also get a negative for an answer. Excuse me, I'll get a positive for an answer. A negative times a negative is a positive. So if I multiply a negative 3 times a negative 4, I will get a positive 12 as an answer. Just like over here, it works for division too. If I divide a negative 3 by a negative 4, I will get a positive answer. But if I multiply a positive by a negative, or it could be a negative by a positive, it doesn't matter, both of those will give me a negative answer. So if I take a 3 times a negative 4, I will get a negative 12. If I take a 3 divided by a negative 4, I will get a negative 0.75. So here are our rules for multiplication and division. Please keep them in mind. Let's go through a few examples here real quick. Okay. As I go through these, just think about out loud what's going to be positive or negative. This is a negative times a positive. It will be a negative answer. This is a positive times a negative. It will also be a negative. Positive times a positive. Positive. Negative times a negative. Positive. Negative divided by a positive. That will be a negative. And a negative divided by a negative. That will be a positive. So there are rules for multiplication and division, and our different ways of writing multiplication and division. Please become very familiar with those.